Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies and Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another manga review. Today we're going to be looking at One Piece, and I'm going to be looking at Punk Hazard. Now, Punk Hazard is not its own saga, it's actually part of the Dressrosa saga, but Dressrosa is like 150 chapters long, and that's too much content to make one single video on, because it would be like an hour and a half, and I would not be able to remember all of the information that I need to remember. So I'm going to do it in three sections. We're going to do Punk Hazard, which is Dressrosa Part 1, and we're going to do Dressrosa Part 2, which is the first half of Dressrosa, and then Dressrosa Part 3, which is the second half of Dressrosa. So there we go. Each of them will cover about 50 chapters worth of content. So, yeah. One Piece, and specifically Punk Hazard, is of course written by Eiichiro Oda, and I don't really feel the need to say anything else that I usually would do. So let's just get into the rating before I get into the premise. So the rating is a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it a lot more than Fishman Island because we are back in the world now. There's no need to reestablish the characters, and also because I think that this being the world building segment of the saga is a lot more interesting and enjoyable for me than having a whole saga pushed into 45 chapters, because I'm pretty sure that Fishman Island and Punk Hazard are about the same length, but this one feels like it's not complete because it's only partially setting up the story, right? So there's a lot more issues in Punk Hazard, but in general, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did Fishman Island. So that's why it's a 5 out of 5. Most of my ratings are purely based on enjoyment, not necessarily objective writing skills or objective writing ability or anything like that. Because even though I did try to do that at the early stages of my YouTube channel, I realized quickly that it doesn't really make sense because I'm not a writer, so I don't know what is objectively good writing and what is not. And also, this is mostly for enjoyment, so I don't really end up judging these stories based on how well they're written, but rather how enjoyable they are. It just happens to be that a lot of things that are generally well written also happen to be very enjoyable, One Piece being chief among them. But I think that Punk Hazard is a lot more interesting to me than Fishman Island because it is the setup part of the story, and I really enjoy the setup parts of Oda's writing. So that's why it's a 5 out of 5. Let's talk about the actual story now, though. So the premise is basically that they're finally in the new world. They're finally, in the second half of the Grand Line, and they have 3 choices. They can go to 3 different places, and it turns out that Smoker is waiting for them to try to capture them. However, they actually go to none of these places. They end up on Punk Hazard, which is a secret island run by the government. It's one of these things kind of similar to NS Lobby and stuff like that, where it's like one of these things that just exist and is secret and hidden. And this island seems to be a very weird place because half of it is molten lava, like Mustafar, and the other half is icy, like Hoth. So it's a really cool thing there. I don't know if there was a Star Wars parallel meant to be there, at all, but I very much doubt it. But it is interesting. I generally just came up with that in my head a few days ago, and it kind of stuck. And they step onto this island, and they end up getting roped into a alliance with Trafalgar Law, and then they also end up having to join forces with Smoker and Tashigi in order to take down this guy called Caesar Clown, who is this evil, Joker character. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of parallels between this one and Thriller Bark in terms of how things are structured. Nami and Chopper get a bit of a limelight here, and it's really, really interesting. So yeah, the premise is really good for this part of the story. So the plotline is very generally set up in a standard One Piece way. They enter the island, they encounter resistance. In this case, they find a dragon, and then they end up clashing with Smoker, and then they come across Law. They also end up fighting some random centaur people, which are not actually centaurs. They're just normal humans. But Caesar Clown and Trafalgar Law mess with them a bit, so they're kind of centaurs for some reason. They also meet this guy called Kinemon, a Firefox, I think is what his last name is, who happens to be from Wano, which of course is a Japanese-based island because this guy is a samurai. And Then we get the setup of who Caesar is. We get some background story about him, and we learn that his plans are, as follows. I'm not exactly sure what his plans are, but like parts of it involve, using children for experiments, and some of them involve making fake devil fruits, which apparently Kaido really wants. And some of them also include trying to make a lot of money on this, evil super weapon. So, basically, Caesar Clown is like Joker. If Joker happened to be like one of these like crazy like Russian or German scientists that you see in like a lot of American movies, because they have to be the bad guys, right? Usually it's like a Nazi German scientist that's really crazy, like Armin Zola from like Marvel, or something crazy like that, right? So Caesar Clown is basically this type of character. And so the crew decides to save the children, join forces with Law, and then they end up having to run from this toxic gas, which is basically like World War II style chemical warfare, which is insane. It's really, really interesting. And then there's, of course, this big battle, and then there's the resolution into going into Dressrosa. So really, really interesting. We get to see a lot of great character development here, a lot of great character moments. So I really, really enjoy that. The best moments for me are definitely Nami and Chopper. It's really nice that they get to shine again, because honestly, after Arlong Park and after she got her first climb attacked, I'm pretty sure Nami basically disappeared into the background, except to be saved or, helped out by Sanji at one point. And then Chopper also basically disappears. He has a few good moments in Ennis Lobby, or actually Water 7. And he has an interesting moment in Thriller Bark, but the bad guy in Thriller Bark is really stupid. All of them, actually, all of the bad guys in Thriller Bark are pretty stupid except Kuma. So he doesn't really get the shine because he's fighting this loser, right? And so it's really nice to see Nami and Chopper get some of the limelight, get some of the really cool development of their powers and of their abilities, and I really, really enjoy that. So it was great stuff for them. We also had a lot of fun moments between Luffy and Law, because Luffy is the, in a very Japanese comedy style thing, Luffy is the crazy guy, and Law is the straight man. And then we get some fun aspects there with Luffy and Smoker, where Luffy is just very flippant, and Smoker is very direct, and it's just really fun. And then we get to see Zoro and Tashigi interact, which again is really, really interesting. I would really like for them to have some sort of romantic relationship at some point in the future. I'm sure it will eventually get to that. But, for now, they're on opposite sides, and there's a lot of concerns that Zoro has, because she basically reminds him of his young friend, right? So really interesting there. We get to see Kinemon and Sanji have interactions. We get to see this like flipperoo, Freaky Friday type situation where a lot of characters just switch body types. And honestly, I didn't really enjoy this part of the character development. I didn't really find it all that enjoyable, but mostly because it was kind of annoying and confusing to figure out who was who, or I would forget, even though they have these like stupid stickers on their heads. And it would just be really annoying because it's like, oh crap, that's so out of character. That's mostly just me not really paying that much attention. But I think it's just not really easy to do in this kind of very bombastic medium that, is One Piece's art style. So I don't know, it's kind of difficult, but I thought it was interesting. I just didn't really like it. So that kind of sucks in that sense, but it's fine. And then we get introduced to Kinemon, Momonosuke, who is Kinemon's son. And I really like Momonosuke. He's kind of funny. And I like that he's a little kid. And he seems to have some sort of botched devil fruit power, because he turns into dragon and he gets sleepy. And I'm not sure if he gets sleepy because he wasn't eating for a few days or because the devil fruit fucks him up. But I really like his little devil fruit power. He turns into a little dragon, which is really cute. It's a Eastern style dragon though. And we have Caesar Clown, of course, who has the gas fruit. And it's really overpowered, actually, because you can control any gas, right? But, like, anything can be a gas, more or less. So you can control a lot of things as long as they're in their gaseous state. So I'm actually curious if that also means that he can turn things into gas, right? Like, can he manipulate water into turning into water vapor? Or can he, turn certain types of metals into fumes or something like that. I'm really curious if that is how it works, or does it have to be in gas form before he can use it. Then we have Monet, who happens to be this like ice or snow fruit user. But she has wings. I'm not exactly sure why she has wings. I don't know if those wings are actually due to her devil fruit, or she's just a wing person, like a person with wings, or if she's supposed to be some sort of other creature, because she has like harpy abilities, but her harpiness actually seems to be like her using her ice powers in a specific way, or sorry, her snow powers in a specific way. So she's a really unclear character. I don't really know too much about her, but I thought that her fight with Zoro and Tashigi was interesting. Then we have Virgo, who happens to be one of these Vice Admiral characters, and he doesn't have a devil fruit. He just happens to be really good at armament hockey, which is really interesting. And we had a few other characters, but I think those are the most important ones. And yeah, so that's kind of that for the characters. In terms of world building, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Of course, this is the world building part of the story, so it's bound to happen. We learn a lot about Wano. We learn a lot about dragons, which apparently just show up on this island. And it turns out that Vegapunk is creating dragons. And so there's 2 dragons that are Vegapunk's creations on this island. One of them is a very gigantic one, and they're kind of Western style dragons. You know, they have 4 legs, wings, long neck, long tail. However, they're the dopey kind, which is funny. It's really enjoyable. There's one that's really large and one that's really small. There are no wyverns. It's all mostly just quadrupedal. Actually, they would be like 6-legged, right? Because the 2 wings technically are also legs. But, you know, they're quadrupedal, you know, like brontosaurus with wings kind of dragons. And then we get this giant poison salamander, which is apparently it's called Slimy or Smiley. I can't remember exactly, but it's a noxious gas / slime that ate or was forced to ingest or somehow connected to the slime fruit. And so this slime fruit or sala fruit, I can't remember, but it turns it into a salamander. And so this giant salamander with mystical powers that happen to do with poison, I would basically say that is also a dragon. So far there's 3 dragons on the island. Then you get Mononosuke, so that's 4 dragons on the island, which is really interesting. It's just really odd that dragons suddenly become important. Of course, I also know that there's, you know, characters far in the future that also are dragons. And we did get to see mythical zones in Marco's transformation a while back. So I'm curious to see if that leads anywhere. I'm pretty sure that's what is being implied here, because Mononosuke sees the swirly fruit, he eats the swirly fruit, and then he turns into a dragon. So he has a dragon fruit, I'm guessing, which is really, really cool. And then we get to see a lot about the world government. They're basically a really shitty organization. We already knew this. They're horrible people, and they have an interest in evil, you know, harsh weaponry. There's also things mentioned about Vegapunk, which has been a character that's mentioned a lot. So we can expect Vegapunk to become relevant here soon. Maybe not soon, but, you know, sometime later. And they mentioned Vegapunk's lasers a lot, and Frankie has those because we know that he was on Vegapunk's home island for a long time, which is cool. We get to see a lot about science in the One Piece world, which is really interesting. They mostly just use it to further enhance their magic abilities, which are the devil fruits, which is really cool. We get to see that there's fake devil fruits. We get to see that Vegapunk created a few. Mononosuke's is one, I think. And we also see that there's the ability to create fake zone fruits, which are the SAD things that turn into Smile, which then are sold to Kaido, which is really, really interesting. I don't know how they work. There's no real explanation about that, because if they're fake but they're still useful, does that affect the natural fruit of that same type? Like, do they just create one and then, like, artificially put an animal into it, and then through that, does the original one lose its purpose because there is now an existing devil fruit of that type? I'm not sure. It's really, really interesting to think about, though. So that's it for the world building. In terms of artwork, I think there was a lot of great stuff here. There was a direct callback to a story from Wanted, which is a short story collection that Oda did at one point. I have it. I've done a review for it, but there's a direct correlation here because in Wanted, there's a short story about this samurai that's traveling through a Western-style country, and he eventually defeats a dragon with a single swing. And I'm pretty sure Zoro does this here as well, which is really, really badass, really, really interesting. Zoro is basically also kind of inspired by this character because this character also happens to be the same character that we met in Thriller Bark. So this Wanted, short story is actually connected to One Piece in a really interesting way. And it's really, really cool. You could say that, Wanted is a story about the guy from Wano moving on to a different island on the Grand Line and then defeating a dragon and making himself known, right? But it's also referenced here by Zoro killing a dragon as well. So that's really, really cool. In terms of the artwork, the style, everything is great. The female characters look really, really good. I mean, Oda really stepped it up. And the action scenes are really great. There was really almost no confusion in the fight scenes, which is great because sometimes with Oda, I do get a little bit confused. The male characters look really badass. Smoker is yoked, man. He's so cool. Law is really interesting. I like his facial expression a lot. Virgo is a really odd character, but the way he's drawn is badass as well. Very powerful. So the art style is great, as always. In terms of fan service, there's a little bit. Mostly it happens during the body swap situations because Sanji happens to end up in Nami's body. And of course, this is going to lead to a lot of shitty jokes. Now, I don't really hate Sanji as a character. I quite like him, actually. And some of the things that he does with his pervert, jokes are actually kind of funny. Like, him almost dying out of a nosebleed is pretty freaking funny. Not because it's a funny concept, but rather because it's just so ridiculous that I laughed at it. But a lot of the things that he does otherwise are pretty bad. So I don't really love it, but I don't really care too much about it either. I really don't have a lot of hangups that a lot more, like a lot of other Westerners might have about this. Mostly because I don't really care at the end of the day. I know it's fiction, it doesn't really matter. So I really don't have issues with it, but I know I understand that a lot of people might have them. So, I'm just making a note of it because it's a warning and I really want people to know this. So yeah. In terms of a rating, like I said, it's a 5 out of 5. I just had a lot of fun reading this. I started out the month in a bit of a reading slump, and the only things that really drew my attention in the first couple days of the month were One Piece chapters and, of course, a little bit of TV. So I was just kind of tired of interacting with media, and so watching TV at night with my parents was a draw, and trying to read One Piece was also a draw. So Punk Hazard is basically what got me out of my funk this month, and I really appreciate that, and I really enjoyed it, so it's a 5 out of 5 for sure. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please do like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.